Thank you for streaming on WBIR. I recently had the chance to sit down with Knoxville's top cop, Knoxville Police Chief Paul Noel, and we discussed everything from the drop in violence and homicides in the city to drugs and homelessness, even high-tech tools in policing these days, and artificial intelligence. Well, he just passed his 4-year mark as Knoxville's police chief, and he paid a visit to our podcast studio for a conversation. Take a listen. Chief Paul Noel, thank you for taking time to be with us today. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me in the studio.
Okay, let's talk about 4 years as the chief of KPD. You just celebrated your 4-year mark, right?
It feels like I've always been here, and it feels like I just started at the same time, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. But let's talk about your tenure here. Sum it up for me. How do you sum up 4 years with Knoxville Police Department? It's
been great. You know, it's been just to me, just a really fun experience. A time of tremendous change for me personally, for my family. We've never lived anywhere else. So moving up here has been a lot. But now
New Orleans.
From New Orleans, yeah. But now my parents live here. My wife's parents live here. So we've brought everybody up. But it's been a lot of change personally, but also, you know, the police department has undergone a lot of change as well, and that's been very exciting.
Let's talk about those changes. What changes are you most proud of in your 4 years?
Wow. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing is the part we played in the historic reductions in violent crime. When I think about when I first came here in 2022 and looking at what the city of Knoxville went through in 21 and, you know, early 22, violent crime was very, very high. And to have that problem well in hand and have some of the most historic reductions in violent crime that the city has ever seen, I'm very proud of that.
And this is something that we're seeing across the nation, a drop in violent crime. Let's look at the numbers, Knoxville specific. Where have we seen the greatest, and what areas have we seen the greatest drop?
The greatest drop has been murders and in non-fatal shootings. And those murders have decreased dramatically from when I came here. This year, again, we're experiencing just record reductions again from this year to last year in murders and non-fatal shootings.
Where does it stand right now?
Right now, we've had 5 non-fatal shootings, I believe. This time last year, we had almost 20.
Yeah, so halfway through the year.
Yeah, and murders are down 25% as well. Yeah.
What areas of crime, though, are still consistently higher than others?
So we're down almost in every category that we track. You know, some of the challenges that we still face are, you know, we face some public order crimes around homelessness, other issues like that. Traffic fatalities is something that we still need to do a better job on. We've seen certainly a high number of traffic fatalities over the last couple of years. That's kind of gone up and down a little bit.
We talked about this before we started recording, but why are we seeing these numbers drop? And we're happy they're dropping, but there have to be several reasons why, many reasons why, but what do you attribute it to?
Yes, I'll start off with saying that, you know, criminologists all across the country are studying this right now, and they're trying to figure out the same thing. But from what I see from my perspective, across the profession of law enforcement and city government, police departments, city government, and community organizations have never been more aligned. And I think that's one of the big reason that you're seeing dramatic decreases in violent crime across the country. And that's probably the biggest reason the city of Knoxville is well ahead of the national curve, is because, you know, the police department here is doing a really good job focusing on the most violent offenders in the city, and also some of the areas that have historically seen some of the most crime. The city administration, led by the mayor, LaKenya Middlebrook at the Office of Community Safety, they are doing some amazing work with helping so many of the community groups get aligned. And we are, the police department side, identifying these violent offenders, putting them in jail, and at the same time offering services to people that want to change their behavior.
Violence reduction programs in place.
And I really believe we're doing an excellent job of that across the board. And that's why we're so ahead of the national curve. It's such a team effort.
Crime, though, is just different today. We talked about this once we were offline as well, about when we were starting out, we were kids. I mean, it was bank robberies, things of that nature.
Yeah, it's changed so much. When I started as a young cop in 1997, it was stick-ups or armed robberies, and you'd be walking down the street and someone would walk up to you and say, hey, you got a light, and next thing you know, they have a gun in your face. But that's changed a lot because people don't carry cash, right? And, residence burglaries have gone down dramatically a lot because, everybody's got private cameras now, and, there's people watching, and, we have technology that if you do that type of behavior, if you're a burglar, sooner or later you're going to get caught, you're going to go to jail, and you won't be able to reoffend. More and more crimes have shifted to the internet and cyber crimes and things like that. So the nature of it has changed dramatically over the last 30 years.
Let's talk about the technology that is within your department. I mean, we've got obviously license plate readers. We have obviously the officers wear cameras.
Yes.
We have the real-time information, drones, you name it. How is that impacting your department and its crime-fighting abilities?
So the technological advances in law enforcement have completely reshaped the profession. But, one of the challenges that comes from that is we have more information than we could process, right? So one of the things that, as leaders, what we need to be able to do is take all of that information, it's way too much information to process, and find ways to streamline that information so the members of our team could use it, it could be actionable. When you think about body-worn camera video, we have most of our body-worn camera video is never looked at because we just have countless, hours and hours of body-worn camera video. We just did a study with a company that analyzed all of our body-worn camera video using AI to give us some information out of that. So I think that's what you're going to be seeing moving into the future is how can we take that information and make it actionable? Because information is not good if you can't use it because you have too much.
Exactly. At the Real-Time Information Center,
Yes.
that plays into this, right? For folks who have not heard of it, explain what that is.
Absolutely. So what the Real-Time Information Center is, in its essence, it's a conduit, a hub where all of this information flows into. Then we use technology to streamline it and make it actionable. So, you mentioned, Robin, we have license plate readers. We have body-worn cameras. The city has cameras. TDOT has cameras. Now private businesses, for the first time, can now integrate their system, their cameras with ours. You could do that right now by going to our website and learning more about that.
They become part of the crime-fighting network, if you will.
Absolutely. You could register your camera, even if you don't want to integrate it. You could register it, which basically lets us know that you have a camera. Before that, what would happen if we would have a crime? We would have to go out and actually look around to see if we see a camera and knock on someone's door and ask if we could use that. So what's happening now is all of that information is coming into one location, and that allows us to do two main things. One, in real time, support our officers in the field, but also go backwards in time and help solve crime. If you look at the terrorist attack in New Orleans on Bourbon Street, if you look at the murder of United Healthcare executive in New York City, they used those real-time crime centers going backwards to help solve those crimes. And we have our drones as well, which is, I'm sure we'll talk about.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's talk about them now, because that gives you truly a bird's eye view. How are you all deploying and using those?
So we're in a deployment phase now. So those drones will be pre-positioned across the city. And, when you think about, if you're a police officer, Robin, and you get dispatched to a call, all you know is the limited information that dispatcher is telling you. And you drive into the call, and after that, you don't know anymore. Well, that drone is going to be over that call before you get there. And that drone operator will be giving you information real time, giving that officer information real time before they get there. So, imagine you're going on a call of someone with a knife in Tyson Park. And before you get there, you have a drone operator saying, this is exactly where that person is. They're by themselves. And they're wielding a knife, but if we know he's by himself now, we could back off, right? We don't have to get in a confrontation with them. We could take a time, formulate a plan, bring negotiators in, less than lethal options and everything else. If we don't know where that person is, if we don't have that drone, we may stumble right on top of that person and end up having to use deadly force. That information is so powerful.
Did you ever think in your career, it's almost Jetsons-like, that you're crime fighting from above?
It's changed so much, like when you watch, it's stuff when I was growing up, it was only in science fiction movies like Blade Runner and stuff like that. Now, like, we're living that now.
How, though, do you balance the privacy aspect of this? Because no doubt there are cameras everywhere on people.
Yes.
But there is that argument that this infringes upon my privacy.
Sure.
How do you address that as a department?
That's a great question. I think, the biggest thing is that we have to have good data protection. So the information, the data that we have, like with the camera feeds, for example, we only keep that 30 days if it's not non-evidence. And if someone shares their private camera with us, we never touch that data at all. They keep that data unless we go request it and download it. That data stays on their feed. So I think what we need to do is make sure that we're following state law, which mandates that we purge that information on that data on a regular basis. And also, too, that information is out there everywhere. People have cell phone cameras all over the place. You can't walk into any business, really, in Knoxville and not be on internal and external cameras.
Let's talk about a milestone your department just hit. You reached your recruitment level.
Yes, sir.
It had been years that you had been at capacity, if you will.
Yes.
So, number one, bring us up to date on that. Number two, what did it take to get there? Because I know nationally it had been a challenge to recruit.
Yeah, super excited about that. So we're at our budgeted strength, which is 416, with this new budget that just passed that'll go up to 421. But there was a lot of work going into that. What you saw, during, coming out of COVID pandemic is that, hiring really struggled. And law enforcement hiring struggled all across the country. And we were not doing a very good job of recruiting, and we were not doing a very good job of running academies to train officers. And we went from running 3 academies in 10 years to 3 academies a year. And that was really fueled by a big advertising push all across the country. And I credit the mayor's office for putting money behind this. Advertisers, you guys sell ads here every day. It's not cheap. And we advertised all across the country, and we're able to bring in applicants from all across the country to get us up to budget strength.
Yeah, what is your strength now?
We are right now, we have a class that's about to graduate. We're at 407, and when that class graduates, we'll be a couple over our authorized strength. But we always have people that are retiring, kind of coming in and out. That's one of the challenges that we have with hiring is it takes about 2 years to hire a police officer and get them fully trained. And right now, we still have about 25% of our department that's eligible to retire right now.
Chief, we were talking about crime has changed. But how have police officers changed, given everything that they are experiencing with technology, as we were talking about?
So that's a great question, and no one has really ever asked me that before.
Oh, okay.
But it's something I think about a lot. So
yeah.
Credit for asking a great question. Police officers now, the people we hire now, I'm so excited about this next generation of police officers. I think they're much more intelligent than my generation. That they're more educated. They ask a lot of questions. They want to learn. And they want to help. When I was coming on and, as a 20-year-old kid in 1997, we wanted to drive fast and catch the bad guys. And now, when you talk to, these men and women, they want to be co-responders. They want to get out and work with the community to problem solve. They're more educated. They're more worldly connected. And they embrace, de-escalation. They embrace problem solving, and I think this next generation of police officers is going to be just fabulous. We always hear, it's always getting worse, so they'll never be as good as the last. I think they're going to be so much better. This is the first generation that's come up using technology, using all of this technology that's going to shape the way they police. I think it's going to be great.
So you mentioned the co-responder program, and for those not familiar with it, it matches a police officer with a mental health expert,
Yes.
who then respond to scenes where there is that need, de-escalation, as you mentioned, and
Yes.
other needs that may arise. How is that program going, number one? And should that have been a part of the game plan well before it was instituted just a few years ago?
Absolutely. I mean, I think in law enforcement, it's something that I wish we would have had when I came on the job, almost 30 years ago. Program's going great. We have a great partnership with Helen Ross McNabb. We have 6 co-responder teams, 6 police officers, and 6 co-responders that come together and they work every single day to go out and deal with these calls. We'd like to have 6 more. So long term, we would love to double the size of this. I think that what people see when they come out and they do a ride-along with a police officer is they think that police officers are dealing with crime every day and all of this stuff you see on TV when you watch these TV shows. And what they don't see is that for the most part, police officers are dealing with a wide variety of different issues that include mental health problems, opioid addiction, a combination of all of those. So not only do we need to train our police officers differently, all of our officers, to be able to effectively respond to those calls, like with CIT training, but it reinforces the need for the co-responder program.
6 more, you'd probably even want more than 6, just as this goes forward, because there is,
Yeah.
we've done stories that really highlights the value from those impacted.
Yeah, we'd love to have 12
violently.
teams. Because remember, they all don't work at the same time. They take, they have days off.
Right,
They
right.
work,
Is there an effort to try to make that happen sooner rather than later?
I think long term, I think you're going to see the city build toward that. When we started at a small number. We went to 4. Now we have 6. It's one of these things. It takes a while to be able to build it at. Also, it's a challenge to find mental health clinicians that want to go out there and do that work. If you're a social worker and you have a chance to work in an office, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or you're gonna go out and work shift work. Mm-hmm. You're gonna go out and work nights. You're gonna go out and work weekends. You're gonna work in the rain, work in the cold. It's tough to find people who want to do that work. So I think we're building the capacity to that.
Take special people.
It
for
does.
Sure. Mental health, clearly a significant issue in your world. Drugs as well. We have reported for many, many years this incredible rise in ODs, but now we're seeing, much like crime, violent crime coming down, we're seeing ODs going down as well. Mm-hmm. We're seeing that in Knoxville, Knox County.
Yes.
What do you see as factoring in with that?
I think the biggest thing is the availability of Narcan and drugs that are that prevent people from overdosing in the first place. We work really hard to remove illegal drugs from the street, and we make busts every single day, and we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep expand those efforts as much as we can, but also credit the work that like Metro Drug Coalition and so many of those agencies that are out there that are on the front lines dealing with it's an epidemic, and they're dealing with that every single day. They're doing a great job as well. Much like violent crime, the reductions we've seen there, I think you have, police department, we're out there trying to keep drugs from coming in to our community when they do get here, to arrest those offenders, and then try to do as much treatment as we can with some of the other agencies as well.
Are there any, what drugs are you seeing on the streets? And there is a new emerging drug that you're starting to see. Let's talk about that.
When I came on 30 years ago, it was, crack cocaine and heroin. And now you're seeing so many of these different synthetic drugs that are out there, and they're incredibly dangerous. The emergence of fentanyl and methamphetamine has really reshaped American society. When you really think about it, crack cocaine and heroin, that was, drugs that were grown, imported in illegally to the country. Now, all of these, many of these drugs can be made from chemicals that you could buy at the store or get shipped in, and the availability of it is, not only, like I said, changed the fabric of society, but it's really infiltrated almost every aspect of our lives. I mean, you have school kids that are dealing with it now. It's so scary. Mm-hmm. It's so scary. And some of these drugs are very potent, and they cause people to overdose, cause people to die, cause people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. And it's something that I think it's a crisis that we're not only seeing here in Knoxville, but we've seen all across the country.
What about access? I know there is a partnership to really cut off access that primarily, my understanding, is originating in the Detroit area. Yes. And there's an initiative to address that from a law enforcement and a judicial level as well. Is it making an impact?
It absolutely is. So we're a proud partner with the 313 initiative that really seeks to stem the flow of drugs from coming down from Michigan. And you see it. It's almost like old time like barter system. You have drugs coming down from Detroit, and we sell more guns in Tennessee per capita than any other state. And those individuals are obtaining guns here legally and illegally, and bringing them back up. And so there's a whole market that's really kind of evolved from that.
So
it's kind of
drugs
fascinating.
Come down, guns
go
up.
Back up. Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of fascinating.
It is, but it's been in place for a couple of years now,
yes.
right? And you have seen a reduction or success, if you will.
Absolutely. If you come down from Detroit to commit violent crime in Knoxville, or to buy, to purchase guns illegally, or you're bringing drugs down, there's a good chance we're gonna know who you are, or we're gonna identify you. We're gonna put you in prison.
Mm-hmm. The homelessness situation in Knoxville, it has forever been a story that we have covered of how do you address it effectively. Yeah. Are we addressing it effectively?
I think there's a lot more we could do. But it's a challenge across the country. When I travel to different cities, you see it everywhere. My hometown of New Orleans, experience it as well. And, I think that, one of the challenges that we face as law enforcement is we're expected to be on the front lines of the issue. But in a lot of ways, it's not against the law to be homeless.
No.
There's crimes that homeless people do commit, just like people commit, people who are not homeless commit crimes, and we certainly enforce those crimes. But it's a challenge because it frustrates people, and it makes people feel unsafe sometimes. I think as a city, we do a good job dealing with it, but I think there's certainly more we could do as well.
Do you have any ideas?
Well, I think one thing that I would like to see is a more organized effort to identify so many of the groups that are trying to help people and coordinate that effort, because we clean up homeless camps every single day, and the city of Knoxville and the Knoxville Police Department together picks up 10 tons of trash a week from homeless camps, and many of that is equipment and other items that are donated from local church groups and other people that want to help, and they think they're doing the right thing, and they bring those things and they give them to people, and then a month later, those brand new tents and equipment end up going in a landfill, which is not good for our environment. And I would like to see a more organized, a better effort to try to change behavior instead of enabling bad behavior.
As we are looking ahead, as you are looking back on 4 years, let's look ahead. What do you want to do? If there is one mission that you have to fulfill between now and the next 4 years, what would that be?
Well, I wish there was only one, Rob, because I feel like we've only just gotten started.
Exactly. Okay. Well, let's hear. What are your goals? What is going to make Knoxville a safer, better place to live in your world?
So, first of all, we need to keep hiring, right? I think with with law enforcement, you're going to have police officers that the day of a police officer staying 30 years, you don't see that as much now. People get into this work and they come and go. So that means we need to hire more. We need to factor into our recruiting with that. We're also going to see in the next 5 years, a chunk of our officers won't work here anymore. So we're getting much younger as a department. means we're losing a lot of experience, so we need to prepare.
So the people retiring, going on, or moving elsewhere.
Absolutely. So we need to get ready and prepare for that. We also need to get in front of and be ready to deal with all of the massive technology changes that are going to happen. When you think about in this world, how much artificial intelligence has changed the world in the last year, in the last 6 months, it's affecting our profession as well. And we need to, we need to learn, right. And we need to get in front of that and use that to make our operations better, as opposed to, to just, kind of avoiding it.
Well, you mentioned in our discussion in which you've employed it to look at video and real information to parse it up for you, because it's such a mass amount, if you will.
And people are scared of AI, but in my opinion, AI is such an amazing tool, because what it can do that humans can't do is analyze almost an infinite amount of information and put that into a usable form. Right? And think about, again, we'll go back, Robin, you're a Knoxville police officer, and you're going on a call, a domestic violence call. Well, there's all kind of information we have on that address, on people that might live there, on neighbors, past calls. But you can't analyze that information in the 3 minutes or 4 minutes it takes to drive a car to that location. You're just driving a car. Right? So AI pretty soon is going to be able to condense all of that information and give that to you in a usable form. And then once we get a self-driving car, okay, you will now have more time to process that information, look at drone footage as you ride in your self-driving car to the call. So that's going to happen in the next couple of years.
You envision a fleet of self-driving cars for KPD?
Why not? Why not? Why wouldn't we? I mean, the technology is coming. I mean, think about this. Someone that's 10 years old today probably may never own a car. Think about that. They may call up a self-driving subscription service. Think about how much, if you would go back in time right now and look at how much your profession has changed in the last 10 years, last 5 years. This, I think you would have your head in the sand and say law enforcement is not going to experience the same changes. So I don't want to give the listeners the idea that we're currently shopping for self-driving cars, now, but think about the time that officers could use, once that technology comes and once it's readily available.
It really is mind-blowing when you think about it, and it's kind of hard to comprehend, but you can't ignore that this is happening. It's in front of us. Do you think you'd mentioned, one of the concerns as far as incidents, things that are happening that are continuing to happen, car accidents?
Yes.
Would that reduce the number of car accidents and fatalities, hopefully, to have?
I think it would. I mean, I think, overall, they have to be better drivers than humans. Humans are pretty bad drivers. Have you driven on I-40 lately?
Daily.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot's going to change, and I really hope that it happens. I hope to be in this profession at least 10 more years, maybe 15. And I'm super excited about being able to be a part of it. I mean, isn't it great?
So when we have our self-driving cars, then we can have our devices in our hand, police officers, as they're getting the information as they're going to the scene.
I'm going to plead the fifth on that
okay.
one, Robert. Yeah.
but it does make sense when you put it all together.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see as we go forth what will play out.
And I think that information will be coming through audio. Right? But
so so no phones.
So have you ever tried to back up your car in a tight spot and you had to turn your radio off so you could think better?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of the same way your brain works,
When that day comes that we're doing a story on this, I'm going to bring you back in. We're going to talk about you nailed it.
You're going to get me in big trouble here talking about all this stuff here.
But it's I think we are all wondering what's next. We see what's happening, and in some ways it's exciting. In some ways it's very scary.
It is very scary, but also I think there's if we approach it from, like we just did in the Knoxville Police Department, we had a group come in to do a class or to train us on how to interact with this technology and interact with vendors, because now I have so many different vendors pitching all of this stuff for me. and it's really hard because some of it it's a little bit above my level of understanding. So I need to do a better job, and my leadership team, we need to do a better job of educating ourselves on all this stuff so we can understand what we're dealing with.
But, we hear a lot of young people especially are worried AI is going to take their jobs.
Sure.
And clearly it can enable us in our jobs. Is there ever a world in which AI is going to take a police officer's job?
I can't believe that would ever happen. I think that there's so much of what we do, you still need a human being to do. And what I would say to that as well is I think the master craftsmen before the Industrial Revolution, they said the same thing. And, I think the workforce is going to evolve. I think that AI is going to make our jobs, it's going to create more work because we have more information that we're going to be using and accessing than we ever did before. There's only, in this profession, there's only a small fraction of the information and data that we have available that we actually really interact with because we have just such, infinite quantities of information. AI is going to take that and make that data more usable, which is going to mean we need more human beings to go out there and do the work.
Human beings. Let's talk about Paul Noel, the human being, not the police chief. It's a heavy job.
It is.
How do you escape it?
It's tough. I'll be honest with you. I never really turn off. I just not sure when this is going to air, but just last week I was on. I took a week off for vacation, went down to Florida, and I spoke to my team every single day. And I did a little bit of work every single day.
So you remote worked.
Yeah, only because I'm a maniac and I can't truly turn off. Even though my wife gets really mad at me when I can't put the laptop down. But I like to get out and do some hiking. It's what a great place. I didn't have that where I lived before. There was not a lot of hiking in the New Orleans area unless you're walking in the French Quarter. And I love to get out. I just came back from Midnight Hole down hiking there. It was a beautiful place. Jumped off the rock into 50-degree water, almost froze to death. But I love to read a lot, and I have a great group of neighbors that we made some good friends up here, and it's really a great place to live. And I'm enjoying living in East Tennessee. I can't think of a better place in the United States to live.
As a fellow transplant, having been here a long time, I could not agree with you more.
I'm kind of mad I wasn't born here.
Well, you're here. That's all that matters. And with that, I want to say congratulations on 4 years with the Knoxville Police Department. Paul Noel, thank you for your time. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you again for streaming here on WBIR. We hope to have more conversations with Police Chief Paul Noel in the future. And if you're watching right now on YouTube or our mobile app, be sure to remember that you can also watch us on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and Samsung. Download on your TV and watch for free. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great afternoon.